Hello everybody, it's Wyvern here with another bit of Total War Warhammer 2 quick match gameplay. This time around we are playing as the forces of Brettonia against the Lizardmen on the map Golden Colossus. So for this match, I'm going with something rather unconventional, a strat I really wanted to try out but wasn't really sure how it would work out, but a very infantry heavy composition for Brettonia. So starting off, of course, with the Lord choice, and I actually went with something a bit unconventional. I wanted to try out Albrecht the Bordeleaux, get that extra charge bonus. He's obviously got a bonus for large of 30. Decent enough melee attack. He's not a great Lord overall, I don't think. He doesn't have regen like Lewin, but I figured, with that bonus for large, he might be decent against the dinosaurs. He also does have Heroic Killing Blow, which could potentially give him a huge boost to damage. Of course, Rally, Foe Seeker, as well as Wrath of Manon. So, Wrath of Manon, not a big fan of it. I think it's a terrible spell that honestly needs some sort of buff or rework or drop in price, but I wanted to try it out, see if I can make it work. Alongside him, we do have the Companions of Quentinus, my only cavalry unit, so definitely going a bit risky here. But figuring these guys with their immunity, psychology, physical resist, all that should be a decent enough choice if I'm able to sort of surround my opponent's forces and utilize my Damsel of Life to keep him healed up. And I did bring her here with the Earthblood, with Regrowth, of course, Life Bloom, and Power Stone. So definitely trying to sort of keep this command structure alive. The rest of my line, pretty cheap, obviously as Brettonian infantry is, but a whole bunch of foot squires, 6 units of them, who of course will trade really sufficiently with Saurus warriors. They hit like absolute trucks against lightly armored or relatively low armored infantry without the best melee defense, so they should do pretty well. They are backed on the periphery by a bunch of spearmen-at-arms to zone away enemy shooting with their silver shields, and then some polearms in the back. 2 men-at-arms with polearms, Beast Slayers with Bastone. In the center we do have a Grail Relic to apply that immunity psychology, and a peasant mob all the way in the front just to soak up a charge. Now my opponent going with a build that's pretty common, and this is really why I think it's usually best to go with a more elite cavalry army, but a build that's pretty common. A bunch of Saurus warriors in the front, they are backed by Temple Guard, some skin cohorts just to provide some cheap chaff support. Lord Mazdamundi, a Saurus Scar veteran, as well as a Feral Stegodon. Now, my opponent immediately pushing out, as am I, because my opponent started in the woods, probably expecting me to bring very heavy on cavalry. Regardless, we are now trying to kind of position here out on the flank to get a sort of more even fight for both of us, because neither of us really want to be fighting here in this mess of a terrain, and so we kind of start repositioning over, and this first about minute or so of the game is basically just that. I was just repositioning our forces, sort of setting up and preparing for a charge. And you can see I'm trying to pivot my whole line. My line is of course very huge, and now we finally do start pushing in, and you definitely want your line spread out, because as you can see on Mazdamundi here, whose spells I did forget to go over, he does have Apotheosis, Net of Mintok, but more importantly he's got a Bound Banishment and Ruination of Cities, so definitely some pretty potent stuff. And you can see we are pushing into each other immediately. The spears here leading the way. I'm using them as a zoning tool. I did some quick head math, figured out, my opponent, this is his army, essentially. I knew that he had no Chameleon Skinks, I didn't really have to worry about those. I just needed to sort of push and overwhelm. You can see that Banishment essentially wasted, doing very little. I don't think these foot squires a little bit, but regardless, we are pushing in. You can see the foot squires are going to start engaging on these Saurus spears, but my opponent here, beelining straight for my Damsel of Life. I do pull her away and sort of pull the Companions of Quentinus in here, trying to engage the Saurus Scarvet. But then I forget, I don't quite micro him. My opponent is actually very good here at sniping out my Damsel of Life. She's actually getting terror-routed, and the Saurus Scarvet is just hitting her so hard that she is actually going to shatter here, which is absolutely ridiculous. But some brutal stuff. You can see she's not actually able to flee. I don't know if she's just unlocked or something, but she's actually just going to shatter there and completely flees off the map. So an absolute disaster right off the bat. I got a single Earthblood off on this flank over here before things went completely south. And although I'm able to surround my opponent's Stark Garvet, my opponent here hitting Albrecht with Arcane Forging, with Net of Mintok, and melting him down incredibly quickly, and I now don't have the healing to keep him alive. Over here in the pits you can see the foot squires slaying out with the Saurus Spheres, and I managed to sort of tie these skinks down, muck them up, prevent them from shooting. Nonetheless, poor Bordeleaux just not able to disengage, getting absolutely massacred. On the flip side, you can see the infantry doing really well. The foot squires here massacring those Saurus Spears, trading really efficiently here with the help of some of these spearmen-at-arms. Rail Relic here making sure these foot squires stick in the fight, and they are actually trashing these guys pretty efficiently. Unfortunately though, Bordeleaux is so badly mauled and I no longer have the heals for him that I'm in a really grim position. I do try to land here on the Feral Stegodon, get a little bit of damage in, but just not able to. My polearms are being blocked by these Saurus warriors. Now things are definitely not looking too PG for my opponent either. He has managed that great caster snipe, which has given him a huge boost in the long run, but nonetheless his infantry is losing the fight. He's definitely very reliant on his spells to sort of even the fight, because foot squires, for their cost, are so efficient. He really doesn't have the tools to deal with this many foot squires here. So you can see I'm sort of trying to apply as much pressure as I can here, deal with these king cohorts. Albrecht here just hovering around, not really able to do anything. He's just so badly mauled. Not really able to dive in on Mazamuni because Mazamuni himself hits like a truck on Slack, and he's got Temple Guard there. But of course, this Grail Relic will keep the troops in the fight and prevent them from routing. So what I do is I'm pulling Albrecht over here, trying to just swoop around, looking for opportunity, and not really finding one until I finally do decide to go after these skin cohorts. Now you can see the companions of Cornelis here disengaging from the Saurus warriors, getting in on the Feral Stegodon, but unfortunately with Apotheosis, my opponent's troops are going to be really hard to kill. They're very tanky, they've got a lot of mass, and they're constantly able to just flee through their own lines, escape my mob of angry knights, and really doing pretty well for themselves that way. Fortunately though, Albrecht, or for my opponent, unfortunately, Albrecht over here is going to dive in and help maul these skin cohorts, which is about, about 1,000 gold. That's going to get wiped out right here for not too much cost on my part. As you can see, the infantry line is definitely doing well. Now, my opponent here is going to get a beautiful banishment. This is definitely a bit of a problem with this sort of infantry build, is that these sort of spell spam, and especially when I don't have a... If I had a heal right now, this wouldn't be a problem. I could just heal this infantry right up and be okay. But the problem is that, of course, with banishment, it just melts these guys down, takes off so much HP, and they're going to simply rat. You can see Ruination of Cities going down, a very RNG-heavy spell. It doesn't really do much there, so definitely I lucked out a little bit. But unfortunately, you can see this companions of Cornelis here slowly but surely getting chipped away at. The fact that I've lost that healer is definitely paying dividends for my opponent in this long run. And you can see over here, Bordeleaux up to 82 kills, doing some major damage to these skinks, but my opponent's core has remained alive. He still has these foot squires, he's still got this core of monsters, and they're going to be doing some huge work. So things are looking very great, very tight. You can see on the flank here, I'm finally wiping out these Star Spears, and my opponent hits me with another Arcane Forging. So a major nuisance, sort of just spamming with that ability. Definitely regretting not bringing, say, Lewin or the Fey Enchantress in this situation, because they would both be doing so much better. Honestly, Bordeleaux is garbage, and that was the feeling I had this entire game, was that wishing I had brought anything but Bordeleaux. Regardless, you can see here he does get mauled. I do pop Heroic Comes below, trying to get a little more damage with these guys to rout him. But my opponent, you can see, very hot on Albrecht's tail. And despite me pathing really aggressively out of there, Bordeleaux just stays in there way too long and gets clocked in the face by this Scar veteran. This is something that I felt happened a lot this game. My Damsel refusing to run, my Bordeleaux refusing to path away, and I was just clicking like mad, and I was furious. You can see Bordeleaux would turn around and float like back towards the Scar. I was really furious and really not happy with that, but there wasn't much I could do. You can see now, things have decisively at this point swung in my opponent's favor. I don't really have much I can do at this point. My opponent, although definitely if he got stuck in, say, prolonged combat, I might be able to win out with the men-at-arms with pole arms. I might still be able to bring this Feral Stegodon down. Mazamuni is just far too healthy. Kasar Scarvet here is sniping my Grail Relic, and at this point, Fear and Terror will do the trick. And with that, my fate is essentially sealed as the game goes to my opponent. So, a good game to my opponent, largely a win aided by my unconventional and bad comp. I definitely well done with my opponent. Some of my opponent's spell placements, he definitely got good value at nuking my infantry down. Was aided though a huge amount by the fact that I lost my Damsel of Life very early. This is part of the reason why I actually like the Fey Enchantress. She's much harder to snipe. I usually bring her out with, say, Grail Guardian. She's much tankier, much more survivable, much harder to kill. Bordeleaux racked up 97 kills, but most of those are skanks, most of those are crappy infantry. Really, he just was not paying dividends. He's a terrible lord, honestly. I know. Brettonia right now has a serious issue with its lord selections. It's basically Fey Enchantress, by far in number one, Lewin a long second, and then nobody else. And I wanted to try Bordeleaux out, wanted to give him a shot. Granted, not necessarily the best micro, but with the bad responsiveness on it, sometimes that you get stacked on top of the fact that he's just so squishy, and he doesn't have regen, and he doesn't have good abilities outside of maybe Heroic Killing Blow. It just makes him such a crappy lord choice. I wanted to give him a shot, and I really just didn't feel he was paying dividends. 97 kills or not, he just wasn't doing it. Now for the rest of this build, definitely infantry heavy can work. What I think in retrospect I should have done is drop this anti-large contingent. Maybe brought some, if I need to zone away chameleon skinks, bring some, maybe like 2 units of spears with shields, and fill it out with knights. Maybe dump some of these foot squires, try to bring more knights. Really, if I had brought my Fey Enchantress, I could have cut down the cost of my core group here, and I could have made room for more knight units, and knights would have made all the difference in the world against this sort of comp. The foot squires won the infantry fight. I think there was no doubt about that. They're just so cost efficient, and the Fey Enchantress, especially with her blessing of the lady, she can make your foot squires just so much better at chopping their way through filthy dinos. But without the healing, without the knightly support to tie down monsters, I really just didn't have the tools to deal with it. So, gonna get into my opponent. Definitely lessons learned here. Definitely don't recommend Bordeleaux if you're looking to be competitive. I would say this is essentially what can happen if you're not on top of your micro, losing my damsel essentially to a single sudden attack, and as well as if you just bring some non-competitive lord choices, I think. Definitely would. Bordeleaux just okay. But it is good to get into my opponent. I do hope you guys enjoyed the video. I know I don't post losses all that often. I know I've been asked to do so quite a few times. But I figured I would share this one with you guys, just as a bit of both to show that Foot Squires are very decent cost-wise, a very decent counter to Lizardmen, but also to show some of the disadvantages of, say, Bordeleaux, why I don't really recommend running him. Just showcase some issues as well. And yeah, just hoping to showcase some good gameplay here from Brettonia. So yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, be sure to leave a like and subscribe down below if you haven't already. If you have any comments, any criticism, any questions, anything like that, be sure to share them and I will respond as soon as I can. As usual, guys, I do appreciate you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye for now.